The White House is calling for a full and thorough investigation after Illinois police discover over 2,000 medically preserved baby remains on the property of an abortionist who died this month. Abortionist Ulrich Klopfer's family contacted the coroner's office last week about possible baby remains at his home and to request proper removal. Upon arriving, authorities found 2,246 preserved baby remains on the property of the abortionist who died in early September. Klopfer was considered Indiana's biggest abortionist, with thousands of abortions committed in multiple Indiana counties over several decades. The state revoked Klopfer's clinic license in 2015. 4 Indiana lawmakers are demanding an investigation into the other abortion clinics where Klopfer worked, and Vice President Mike Pence, a former governor of Indiana, tweeted Klopfer's actions, quote, should be fully and thoroughly investigated. Indiana's Attorney General said he will work with his Illinois counterpart to investigate what he called, quote, the grisly discovery. Senator Mike Braun of Indiana joins us now from Capitol Hill. Senator Ulrich Klopfer was considered Indiana's biggest abortionist. What do you make of this horrific discovery at his home?
Well, when you hear news like that, it's always horrific. But we seem to, over time, have examples like that, just like the private conversations, remember, with Planned Parenthood. The fact that we've evolved that far in the direction of not respecting life, to me, is hard to believe. I was on the floor when Ben Sasse introduced the anti-infanticide bill and was curious to see what Democrat would come forward to object to it. Didn't plan to speak that evening. It was my maiden speech because it appalled me that we had come to that. So, sad thing that it takes discoveries like this to actually push back on abortion in general. But I do have optimism that millennials view this issue differently, and I believe the courts will weigh in here sooner rather than later at a high level to start to change the dynamic.
The White House has called for a full investigation, and your fellow Indiana lawmaker, Representative Jackie Walorski, has called for state and federal authorities to conduct a full investigation into this case. Do you agree with that call?
I agree 100%. I think the governor has weighed in as well. It's sad that something like this crops up. When it does, treat it seriously, and it needs a full investigation, yes.
Ulrich Klopfer was a South Bend abortionist. What action, then, would you like to see from South Bend Mayor and Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg on this?
You know, ironically, Mayor Pete, in the short time he's been out there running for president, has had many issues crop up within his own city. And I think this is just another case of when you look at his interest in becoming involved at the highest level in this country, seems like there's a lot of room for improvement in his own backyard. So hopefully he'll treat this seriously. We know where he stands on the issue generally, but this is different. I'm anxious to see how he responds.
I want to turn now to another story involving pro-life social media and censorship. Last week, you, along with Senators Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, and Kevin Cramer, sent a letter to Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg condemning the social media site for marking 2 videos by the pro-life group Live Action and its president, Lila Rose, as false. The video stated it's never medically necessary to get an abortion, and Facebook marked them as false. Senator Braun, what have you heard back from Facebook since sending your letter?
Nothing that I'm aware of. And when the largest media platform out there responds like that, when you are censoring and doing it blatantly, to me, it shows why we need to look at Facebook, Google, and a lot of the other media companies that basically have no competition, not only on the ability to censor and weigh in with their own political views, also on the economics of it. I'm a free market person that believes in transparency and competition, meaning there are going to be many players in a sector. So I think this is a good indication of why we need to do it for the reason we're talking about here, but also the economics. Antitrust, the Department of Justice, have got to look at these industries and media that only have one player. That's not the way free enterprise works. All kinds of bad things can occur.
So, Senator, what action do you want to see be taken to ensure pro-life social media pages are protected? And how much federal oversight do you think that would warrant?
Well, I think first of all, there's going to be some legislation that comes out of it due to this. It'll be interesting to see which court comes in and tries to thwart it. And then hopefully if that occurs, we get the Supreme Court involved. This is an issue so big that the Supreme Court needs to weigh in on it eventually. And we may need to push the envelope by getting the Department of Justice involved, as well as antitrust, when it comes to the fact that we cannot have companies that control such a large segment of one industry have no competition. Good things never come from that. Generally, stuff like this does.
Senator Mike Braun of Indiana, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Joining us in studio is Mallory Quigley, the Vice President of Communications for the Susan B. Anthony List. And Skyping in from Los Angeles, California is Lila Rose, the President of Live Action. Thank you both for being here. First, I want to get both of your reactions to this discovery of the baby remains at the abortionist Klopfer's home. Mallory, it has drawn comparisons to the notorious late-term abortionist Kermit Gosnell. How do the two compare?
Yes, well, it is certainly reminiscent of what happened in Kermit Gosnell's clinic. I mean, the police there found the remains of children, their whole bodies and pieces scattered throughout the facility, and of course there was a 28-week-old baby frozen in a water jar. It's just terrible to recall the atrocities committed there. I think we don't know about the gestational ages of these children in Klopfer's home. We don't know other demographics, where are their parents, like did these abortions take place? So there's much to be discovered in an investigation, but certainly the parallel to the tragedy of abortion every day, it bothers us that these babies weren't properly disposed of, but the atrocity of abortion should bother us even more.
Absolutely. And Lila, what has been your reaction to this horrendous story?
Well, I mean, listen, it's legal to kill these children. And so why are people so disturbed that are okay with abortion being legal, that their bodies are being hoarded like so much medical waste at an abortionist home? I mean, we value human life or not? And the bodies of these children are precious, but what's more precious is their lives and the fact that we should be fighting for their lives. So I think it's a sign of the total evil, the pure evil we've allowed in our country because of a legalized abortion industry.
Absolutely. Mallory, what action do you and the Susan B. Anthony List want to see taken on this?
Well, we want to see an investigation. Like I said, there's many questions that remain to be answered. At what ages in gestation did these abortions take place? Whether they were late-term abortions. Indiana passed a law requiring the proper disposal of the remains. That law wasn't into effect. Klopfer's license was taken away in 2015 prior to the law passing. But we want to see an investigation here, and we echo Indiana Right to Life, Allen County Right to Life, and of course the Vice President, former Governor of Indiana, in calling for that investigation as well. Where are the presidential candidates on this? This is Pete Buttigieg's backyard. One of those facilities was in South Bend, Indiana, and what is he doing?
A very important story we will continue to track. Lila, another big story we are tracking is Facebook's treatment of your Facebook page and your group Live Action's Facebook page. What is the latest you've heard from Facebook on them marking your videos as false?
So Facebook and Live Action, we've been going back and forth over the last 2 weeks. We have over 3 million people following us online. We're the leader for digital education for the pro-life movement. And for them to falsely fact check our pages using 2 abortionists and then punish the reach of our pages, our ability to actually communicate with people on Facebook, is really terrible, very dangerous. Facebook has been telling us this may have been an error. They said they're doing an investigation, and supposedly we'll learn the results of this investigation tomorrow, because they've acknowledged that it is questionable that they have 2 abortionists with active ties to abortion activist groups who are the ones fact-checking, not just me. This isn't my personal opinion. This isn't Live Action's personal opinion about abortion. We're talking about abortion not being a medical treatment, which is the position held by thousands of OBGYNs and medical professionals. So we'll learn more, but it is a big attack coming from big tech.
Mallory, to Lila's point, Facebook claims it's false. to say it's never medically necessary to get an abortion, but we know that's not true. Thousands of OBGYNs have testified to the fact abortion is not medically necessary. So what kind of dangerous precedent does it set if pro-lifers cannot share the truth on their own social media pages?
Absolutely. I mean, and the pro-life movement is all about the truth, right? What we're about exposing the reality of what's happening in the womb, and we need voices like Lila Rose and Live Action to be able to communicate that. It is very dangerous and frustrating to see Facebook, like Senator Braun said, you know, they're the leader, they're in a space where you know, they've really got the monopoly on what they are, and to see them side so strongly with the pro-abortion lobby in citing those doctors, as Lila said, who have clear ties to the abortion industry, is very frustrating and scary indeed. How can they be a place where people can share and engage in dialogue if they're going to be the arbiters of truth and they're going to use pro-abortion sources?
Lila, what are the next steps you are preparing to take in this case?
So we have several next steps. We are certainly keeping the pressure on Facebook. We have multiple calls with them. We've got friends in Congress and the White House who have spoken out. 4 senators, including Senator Braun, sent a letter to Mark Zuckerberg saying this is indefensible. You can't have your fact checkers, your third-party fact checkers, be abortionists who are actively trying to shut down pro-life groups. I mean, these abortionists have called for my and Live Action's deplatforming. They want us shut down, and they've said it publicly, so they have an agenda. So we're going to continue to push back. We're looking at our legal options. This is a potential lawsuit because they slandered Live Action to thousands of our followers. Facebook sent a push notification, basically like a text message, an alert to thousands of our followers saying that they were sharing false news by sharing our video. So we're looking at legal options. And look, we're not going away. Live Action is going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to educate millions of people because that's our job. And this is the greatest human rights abuse that our nation and our world faces. And so no matter the attacks that we may face, and we're going to try to overcome them from big tech, from Facebook, we're not going away. We're going to take the message to the streets and continue to educate the nation about the humanity of the child and the truth about abortion.
And finally, Mallory, as the Vice President of Communications for a major pro-life group, what action would you like to see big tech do in order to protect pro-life social media pages?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we need transparency. SBA, we've also faced censorship issues from Facebook with our digital political advertising, and Facebook hasn't been able to confirm, was this a result of an algorithm? You know, Lila said they told her maybe it was a mistake. Okay, but at the end of the day, human beings are creating these algorithms, and when you know you have major organizations like Susan B. Anthony List and Live Action should and do have a role on the national stage, we should be treated fairly, and our accounts should be taken seriously. And just to echo what Lila said, I mean, it's very disturbing that they're choosing to be the arbiters of truth, and they are really revealing their bias. It's very disturbing.
Well, I'm so grateful to have you both on this platform. Mallory Quigley, Vice President of Communications for the Susan B. Anthony List, and Lila Rose, President of Live Action. Thank you both.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine.